This isn't exactly great, but things like that sometimes happen. I start off by farming, which is pretty much what you do in every single mode of TDS anyways. The loadout I'm using is Farm, Accelerator, Minigunner, Commander, and Turret. In fact, these are all the loadouts listed on the screen. You can pause the video if you want to know what to use. But yeah, let's continue onwards with the video. Our first tower for defense is of course the Ace Pilot. That's a great spot for the Ace Pilot because it can see around an entire loop. We all skip the wave because we need to place down a Pyromancer. Because the enemies loop in on themselves multiple times, the Pyro is able to deal a lot of damage. We also have to skip a little bit more later in order to upgrade our Ace Pilot to level 2. And I decide to zoom in on some mutated enemies here. The thing that makes them so tough is the fact that they have a shield. There's actually a modifier called Mutation, and every wave, an enemy gains 20% extra shield. This mutation gets worse and worse as it goes, because at some point, the enemies are going to have like 5 times their HP that they originally had. So in order to combat that, I kept farming. After a little bit more upgrading, we had some mutated speedies. The good thing about our current defense is that one Pyro and a level 2 Ace are actually really strong. Not to mention the fact that our Pyro is upgraded. I actually don't know what level it is, but I'm assuming it's being upgraded to level 2. The mutated speedies are easy, so it's back to upgrading more farms. Wave 7 rolls around and we see some hazmats. On the old Polluted Wastelands, these were radioactives, and while radioactives were fast and had high HP, these guys are slow and have high HP. But you know, the map is a little bit shorter now, so I guess it is kind of balanced out anyways. But thanks to our strong Pyro and Ace Pilot, we're able to take most of them down. We do end up taking a little bit of HP, but that's not that big of a problem. At this point, everybody is farming, and it's time for me to place down my last farm before I get any defenses. The defenses I am talking about are of course my minigunner, which I needed $48 more to place. But after gaining some money from the enemies, I had enough money and I placed it right next to the Ace Pilot. This time we didn't tank any HP and we were on to wave 10 without a problem. Wave 10 however introduced us the Wasted boss. It seemed to be moving slower than the Wasted boss in Polluted Wastelands 1, so you know, that is great. Of course with my mini and now a level 3 Ace, this dude was absolutely no problem. Wave 11 was absolute light work, we didn't even have a single wasted boss, but once Wave 12 came out, we had a little bit of a problem. This was of course the wasted boss because he had 100 more HP than the last time we saw him. Curse this one modifier, it makes things so much more annoying. But that 100 extra HP was not enough to break through our defenses, so the game tried to catch us off guard with some shadows. They don't have any extra HP or whatever, it's still 20, same old shadows, they just have a much cooler looking model. Although I don't understand exactly how they're still hidden if they're completely purple. It was no time for questions. It was time for Wave 14, and Wave 14 wasn't very friendly. It gave us 2 wasted bosses, which both had even more HP than before because of that stupid modifier. I swear, I'm going to be bringing up this modifier several times throughout the video because it really makes things tough. But we skipped the wave to upgrade the mini to level 3, and that's really going to do the trick for us, not to mention that we also got an accelerator. The wasted bosses got destroyed, and it was time for Wave 16. Wave 16 was Mysteries. They did have a different model, but they still had that terrible RNG. We got 4 wasted bosses, which absolutely looked terrifying, but thanks to an extra accelerator and a DJ that we got, we were just barely able to take down the wasted bosses. If it weren't for the turret, we probably would have had to tank some HP. Now if you notice, it's Wave 18, and this one accelerator has to be maxed by Wave 22. Do you remember the amalgamation from the old Polluted Wastelands? Well, he didn't go anywhere. A maxed accelerator is really the best way to take it down though, so that's what we were going to need to get. Wave 19 introduced the Necromancer to us, which looks super duper cool. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to see him that well because a bunch of enemies were blocking it, but he was spawning skeletons, which are enemies we don't really ever see, so yeah, I am happy with that. Wave 20 rolled around, and now we saw Toxics, which were the replacements of Fallens. When these Toxics died, they created these green pools, and those pools were an absolute nightmare. They are able to heal enemies that walk over them, and this healing gets so annoying when it's paired up with strong enemies. Either way, it was soon to be Wave 22, and I already knew about the amalgamation being a big problem, so I maxed out a mini and started getting a commander ready. Once Wave 22 rolled around, I wanted the most DPS possible, so I got another level 3 mini and another commander that I was going to try to get to level 2. The amalgamation came out and it looks absolutely sick. it has 8000 HP, which is quite a lot, but because we got a max level accelerator, this guy was going to be pretty easy. Thankfully, he no longer heals, but he does spawn enemies which are pretty strong and pretty annoying, so you better have some towers ready to take him down. I got my second commander to level 2 and used his ability, and that was just enough to take down that amalgamation. After that, it was back to more farming, and although Wave 23 tried to screw us over with yet another amalgamation, it wasn't actually too bad. But you can see that the heal pools were keeping the amalgamation at max health, even though there were 2 max accelerators, a max level mini, a level 3 mini, and all of that was commander chained. You can see now why those toxic pools are going to be a big problem. Skipping a little bit further here, I finally got all my farms to max level, and now it was time to spam accelerators. We also got circuits on Wave 26, and these circuits are not the ones we're used to. Thankfully, they're not as OP as they used to be, because those other ones were able to chain their boosts on each other. These ones thankfully boost kind of randomly, so, no more super circuit chaining. We took them all down and continued with our accelerator spam. We also got some electroshockers and a pyro, and this was going to be very important. The enemies that come later on have a ton of defense, so in order to take them down, we were going to need some defense melting like the pyro and the electroshockers. Also, we're about to see some really fast enemies that the electroshockers are definitely going to be needed for as well. And these are of course the rushers. In the past, the rushers were kind of these little small guys with a shield, but now they're bigger guys with a shield. You can see though why the electroshockers are so busted for these guys. We got way more time to destroy them. And honestly, if we didn't have the electroshockers, those guys might have gotten through. We got a medic on Wave 29 because we were going to be ready to chain it later on in the game. So we were going to want a good spot for the medic in order to see all our towers. A couple accelerators later, we saw the Abomination, which had 20,000 health. In the end, he wasn't really a problem, but he wasn't happy with being killed, so he became reanimated, but then was killed yet again. This time he didn't have anything for us, so it was Wave 31. Wave 31 was nothing special, we took everything out, and it was Wave 32. Also nothing special, moving on to Wave 33, and I think you could see what's going on here. It's just accelerator spam. We are now on Wave 35, and we now get to see our Templar replacement, the Warden. I only really got footage of his beam because I wasn't paying attention to him, but he's kinda weak anyways, and now you can see our map is getting filled with accelerators. On Wave 36 we see a Necromancer boss, but it gets absolutely destroyed. And on Wave 37 I sell all of my farms for some extra placement. Why not Wave 40? Well, this mode gives you way more money than you need in the late game, so I get to placing down some turrets. This one decided to stay at level 1 even though I upgraded it to level 5, and then by the time it